The plague left England with a great labor shortage. Many people who were formerly tied to the land as serfs or as otherwise free laborers could demand a much higher price for their labor than they could have before the plague. And this created a lot of social instability.
There was actually a large peasants' revolt as peasants from around the country converged on London to complain about the way they were treated, to stand up for their own rights.
The peasants were also pretty upset about the way the church was working, and so they beheaded Archbishop Sudbury. One particular instigator, a guy named John Bale, claimed that he was one of Wycliffe's poor priests.
They see in Wycliffe someone who is on their side, who believes that the church is corrupt and is trampling on the poor.
And John Bale associated this with killing the aristocrats. And so John Bale was a pretty dangerous individual. Like Wycliffe, he would reject the idea of social rank. Wycliffe said that there was a king, but there were no distinctions in paradise between gentle people and peasants.
Wycliffe's worldview was, in many ways, a radical departure from the traditional medieval worldview. His ideas have the potential to upend not just the church, but of course society. And in fact, it did. The Peasants Revolt was certainly at the time associated with Wycliffe's ideas. So it's radical.
Wycliffe was completely against the Peasants' Revolt. That is not the way change is supposed to take place. Violence is never the answer, Wycliffe said. Never. But his name was stamped on the Peasants' Revolt because of John Bale.
Towards the end of his life, Wycliffe faced increasing opposition, probably because he was increasingly open about some of the fundamental Catholic doctrines that he was seeking to disagree with.
John of Gaunt had ordered him, "You've got to stop." And Wycliffe said, "How can I stop? Why would I stop saying that something is a lie when it's a lie?"
But it meant that he then faced real opposition from powerful people, popes and archbishops.
Archbishop Courtenay convened a synod at Blackfriars, the Dominican house in London, to consider 24 propositions that were aligned with Wycliffe. The Eucharist heads the list, but there are other propositions on that list as well.
Wycliffe challenges a number of normal practices in most churches, particularly around icons and relics. He was quite firmly and at times violently against anything that seemed to come in between God and people. So I think increasingly you read this heart for the people and against any sorts of abuse of power.
So as they're talking about Wycliffe's heretical ideas and his intransigence, the earth starts to tremble and an earthquake happened. England doesn't get many earthquakes, and people are very upset about this. And all the anti-Wycliffe people say, see, God's angry. And Wycliffe said, see, the church is corrupt. So they condemned him with a set of condemnations that included his position, of course, on the Pope, on the church, and on transubstantiation.
It was the propositions themselves that were condemned, not the man John Wycliffe. But this was the beginning then of Courtenay attempting to rein in, essentially, Wycliffism at Oxford.
So Oxford managed to get rid of him. He was sent to a desert island called Lutterworth in northern England, which you can't even get to today by public transportation. I've tried, and you can get to nearby towns, but the only way to get to Lutterworth is to have somebody friendly drive you. It's that far out of the way. And so Wycliffe was sent there where it was thought he would be no more danger. However, Lutterworth is just close enough so that his poor preachers would still be coming out to him and seeing him.